friends, and welcome back to my home. This is a little bit of a new setup because I'm about to show you how to get this hair, and the only way that I can film myself and see myself is film into my mirror, so hopefully you don't mind it. Hello if you're new, my name is Christina. There are a lot of you all of a sudden, and thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. I know most of you came from my cleaning video, but that is not all that I do. I also really like to do vintage hair, vintage fashion, vintage makeup, baking, everything within the vintage homemaking and housewife sphere I am doing, and today I wanted to share how easy it is to do 1940s, 1950s hair with all of you. So I'm going to share with you my setting routine from beginning to end and get you to this phase of vintage hair. Side note, in my 1950s glamour video, a lot of you were asking where I got this nightgown that I'm wearing. This is vintage and I found it at a thrift store. It is from the 1950s. So unfortunately I cannot direct you to anything similar. I've searched, I've looked for more like this, but you can find them online. You can find them on Etsy, Poshmark, Depop, eBay, Facebook. Those are all the places that I look for true vintage. And I will be having a guide to vintage dressing video coming up because a lot of you asked where I got my clothes, so I think that would be a very useful video to make. And don't forget to tune in next week because I will be styling my vintage hair for a full week to show you all of the different hairstyles that I would do with a vintage wet set. And it's not just going to be me brushing out my hair every day to put it like this. There will be updos, there will be headscarf tutorials, and all sorts of things in that video, so don't forget to tune in for that. But let's get into this routine. Alright, so the very first thing that I do when I'm going to set my hair is just brush through all of it, make sure there are no kinks or tangles because it makes it much easier to have a smooth head of hair. And then I am going to make sure that my part is nice and straight. You see how it's all scraggly right now? I want it to be as perfect as I can get it. It makes it just look so much neater and crisper and more authentic. So the next thing that I'm going to do is section my hair, and at first, when I first started sectioning, I felt like it was such an extra step that I didn't need, but I actually find that it just helps everything stay neat. So the first place I'm going to do it is kind of right up behind my ear. You can see there, these parts do not need to be super perfect. And then I'm going to part it the same on the other side, so right behind my ear. So that is where I start setting. I've got my trusty Lotta Body. I really hope this works. This is the one variable of this video. I can't stop looking at my viewfinder. It's right next to my face. This is the one variable. I've never used Lotta Body, but I've heard a lot of people say that they really love it. I have diluted mine 2 or 3 parts water to 1 part Lotta Body for kind of normal hair. I curl everything downward, so when I am doing the curl, I will take it and wrap it under and then curl sideways and down for the way that I want the front of my hair to sit. I also try to pull these upward so that there is a little bit of volume, but let's get going. I am also going to section into 2 rows. So like there's a section in front of my ear that is in that sections, and then the behind my ear. To hold these smaller sections, I have a box of these. I will have all of my hair setting supplies linked below. I also have an Amazon storefront. I am going to create a hair section and I will put everything. Now we have our first little sections, and then I'm also going to kind of loosely section this into 3 curlers, roughly, based on the length of the hair. So like I said, this is a dilution of Lotta Body and water. And one thing I'm really looking for is how shiny my hair is in the morning. I really don't like to have a lot of product in my hair because I like it to be very soft. I used to use Motion's foaming wrap and I did like that, and it produced easy results. It was very easy to set with because it's just like a mousse. But my hair had a lot of like product-y feeling to it. That was not my favorite. Oh, that works pretty well actually. This, because I didn't like buy a new water bottle, this spray nozzle is kind of like a little bit gunked up. So this side I'm just gonna do 2. One thing you want to really be aware of when you are curling around your curler is your ends. Try to not wrap them like I just did as much as you can. Try to rather tuck the ends under as you're going. It is a little bit harder when you have layers in the front of your hair, so I don't do it as well in the front, but that way in the morning you should be able to like just pull the roller straight out of your hair if you're using this type of roller. One thing you might find as you watch my channel, and if I do more wet sets, is that it really changes how many curlers I'm using depending on my patience and my time and my mood. So this set is going to be a lot of curlers. This side I'm just going to do 2. As you can see, it's pretty small again. And I always find it easier to roll from the top down. So start at the top, go downward. That way you're not like trying to, I tried it downward, I tried rolling from the bottom up once, and my hair kept catching on the rollers, even though they're pillow rollers, so they're soft and they don't have anything hard to catch on them. It just didn't work as well. Now we move on to the back sections. Now, there are 3 ways you can section. I'll show you the back of my hair really quickly. You could section 2. I know some people who do that, where they take these 2 sections and then they do 2 rows. But I have a friend, Holland J. Schmeisy. I don't know how to say her username, but she said that she goes across, so she'll do a row this way and then just keep going. And I find that to be much easier to both section and set. So I'm not even going to section the back. I'm just going to take approximately right here. I think that's a fairly decent section of hair. I'm going to clip that up for a second. And then the rest of it, I'm going to pull like over to, I'm going to pull it over here so that it's not in the way when I'm trying to grab the rest of my hair. So this back section, I'm going to section 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. It depends on how much hair. It might end up being 6. We will see. These I'm not as careful with, but I do just want to make sure that the ends are saturated, and having the comb to comb through it really helps. One other thing that I have learned as I have gone, and make sure all your ends tuck in, this is not, is to not roll my back curlers up on top of my head like I did with the front, because then when you're brushing you will have kind of a funny kink. So you want to stop right about here so that it looks smooth. And in case you haven't seen how I am folding these, I used to twist. I used to do this and twist around like that and then just have all the ends standing up. And then I learned through watching one of her TikToks that you can basically fold them around the hair like that, and it sits so much flatter and it's much more comfortable to sleep on. So I can't be the only one who never thought of that. Taking sections that are approximately like the length of half my thumb-ish and twirl them. It's really, really important to have your ends be tucked That is one of the things that can ruin a set the most, is if you haven't tucked your ends under, then your hair will not have the classic like turned under look that you want. So you should be really conscious of your ends. Wow, why is that so tangled? These back ones I try to do like straight out back. So I guess I can turn a little bit so you can see how I'm doing these, if it's important to anyone. These are kind of the hardest ones to do because I can't see what I'm doing. I know that setting your hair can feel very daunting, especially if you're new to it. But this is now something that I can do while I'm watching a show. I usually watch a YouTube video. I will turn on a creator, usually creators who have like 20-minute videos or longer, and that will be what I do while I'm setting my hair, and I'm not normally looking into the mirror. So it definitely gets easier with time. But it really just comes down to practice and learning what products work the best for your hair. To be honest, one of my favorite ways to set my hair is with beer. I will link the video where I did that up in the corner. That is a 1940s method. And I felt like that left my hair the shiniest out of anything that I've ever tried. And before anyone asks on that video, no, it does not leave your hair smelling like beer. It dissipates very quickly. So that left me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe I did 7, 8 curlers across the top row. So now I'm going to move on to the next section. Okay, so it sounds like it's becoming chaos up there. I'm going to go through the rest of this quickly and do a time lapse and show you what it looks like at the end. I explained this in my last video, but in case you are just now finding me, the way that I tie my scarves, and yes, this is a massive scarf. I'm sorry we are not in focus. They don't have to be this big, but I find that the larger ones definitely work better. But I'm going to tie my scarf into, or fold it into a triangle, and set this at the base of my neck, and then pull it forward and tie it in a little knot. I'm going to flip that back. Kind of make sure that most of these are tucked under. I leave the front ones out because if if I tie over them, then it turns out that my scarf goes over my face when I'm sleeping, and I'm not a big fan of that. But I just tied it in a bow, very, very simple. And for this scarf, because it's so large, I'm actually gonna find a place where I can kind of pin the bow as well with a bobby pin. And I forgot to show you the back of my head fully, but I can also do that in the morning if I remember. But I'm just pinning all these little loose bits so that it stays in place. And there you have it. That was the set. I want to say it took me about 15-20 minutes. A lot of people have asked like why I wear a headscarf over the curlers, and it is because if I don't, I turn back and forth a lot in my sleep, and if I don't wear a headscarf, the curlers come out. They have on occasion. This kind of just holds them in place. I also find that then it, like whenever I move around, it's not pulling my hair with the curler. It's not catching on my pillow. I do sleep with a silk pillowcase, but you can use a bonnet, you can use a hairnet, you can use whatever you like. I just really prefer these because I can tie them tighter, as tight as I want to. I can kind of control it, and they keep the curlers in place all night. And these ones don't come undone just because they're kind of in front of the tie. But yes, that is the process that I use. But that's it, and I will check in the morning, and I am excited to see how this goes. Good morning. It is around 8:30, and I think I'm getting sick, so excuse my voice or mannerisms. I might not be too perky, but I think it's about 8:30, so that means I have slept in these for whenever. What did I say? I put them in at 7 o'clock last night, so a little over 12 hours. And I have not taken the scarf off. Usually in the morning, I like to take off the scarf to kind of let things air dry, just in case something didn't get all the way dried, but I didn't do that today. This morning, what you will need to set your hair is a brush. Like I said before, I will link all of my brushes and stuff down below. If you want to style it exactly like I'm going for, you can either get yourself some of these, I will try to link them, or you can use bobby pins. I'm not going to do anything special. I want this to be as accessible as possible, so I'm not going to do any fancy hairstyling. I'm just going to brush it out. For smoothing, I have finally been sold on pomade. This is from the Apothecary LBCC. I think it's called Little Bits. But they make historical hair care and other things. So I will link their shop down below. So that is what you will need. You need basically 2 things. 3 if you're going to style your hair away from your face. So let's get started. Let's see. They feel dry. Fingers crossed. This is how I know I've rolled them well, is that I can just slide it out and it doesn't catch on anything. That's why you want to be very careful about your ends. Because if you have not turned them under the way that you should, then they will catch on the rollers. This is actually the first set I've had in a while where I didn't have one that was wet. If you do happen to have a single or, a few curls that come out wet, what I do is I use these little clips. I will link these down below. I roll it back up like around my finger like this, and then clip it to my head, leave it like that, and I hit it with a blow dryer until it's fully dry, and then it should brush out fine. It'll be a little tiny bit looser than the rest of your curls, but not terribly. Alright, so I'm going to pull these out and then get the baby to sleep, and then I'll be back. So it all looks very shiny. Also, I'm trying to be somewhat quiet. He's on the bed and he's not all the way asleep, but here's how the back looks. He's not asleep. It's very, very soft, and I feel like either Lotta Body is just really good at that, or I didn't put enough in. We will see. I am going to look at myself in the viewfinder so many times. I apologize in advance. All you're going to do is just start brushing. I like to just give a preliminary... If you use something that feels crunchy, then it is good to kind of run over it with your hands first to kind of break it up a little bit before you go in with the brush. This has done really well. It's not too crunchy. I can tell already it's not going to take very much brushing to get it where I want it to be. And I think that's also just the practice of doing this quite a bit. So to get that kind of smoothly rolled under look, you really want to brush it over your hand. I struggle with this in the back. I still haven't figured out how to master smoothing my curls under in the back, but for the most part, you just brush it under and see how that's already formed, for the most part, how I want it to form. And you really just brush until you like it. There are some people who will tell you to tease your hair beforehand. If you want some more volume, then you can. Oh, I had a curl that kind of went 2 ways. If you want to tease it, you can. I never do. I don't want tons and tons of volume because I'm going for a more everyday kind of look and not really like super pinup. But yeah, you really don't have to tease. And overall, this set is behaving very nicely. Once you do this, if you do this regularly, your hair will get used to it. You will get used to the motions you need to do to get your hair where you want it to be. As you can see, like with my bangs, I try to use my thumb under there. That alone gives them some volume. And they will probably fall throughout the day, but that's okay. But the more that you do this, the easier it gets. The more that your hair will know what pattern you want it to follow, and it'll fall into place easier. Like this, where I really have not had to brush very long at all for it to form the curls that I want it to form. I want my bangs to be a little bit separate from the rest of my hair, so I'm kind of trying to train them away from my hair. But the two most important things are your haircut and how well you curl your curlers. Like, you really want to pay attention to getting your ends under and rolling all of them in the same direction to get this kind of easy wave. The styling portion for me, I feel like this went way too quickly. I'm literally going to leave it in live time because it just went so fast. As you can see, the back of my hair is never like perfectly formed. Some people might get annoyed that my hair is not like perfectly beautifully all together in the back. I don't really care. I don't see the back of my hair, and so it doesn't bother me. But I will just check to make sure it's not like super frizzy or anything. See, I have that one bit. I think I need to trim my hair up a little bit in the back because it is really important that you have a haircut that is conducive to making these vintage styles. So you can either do the full vintage midi, which is like a U-cut with layers. If I can find a picture of it, I will link it down in my Ko-Fi, which a lot of people have been asking about, like if my vintage routines are anywhere so that they can follow them. It's all on Ko-Fi. It's always going to be on Ko-Fi. That is where, if I have typed anything out or if I have pictures, I will put them on my Ko-Fi page for all of you to see. It's totally free. You can tip me if you want to. You don't have to. It's just there. But if I can find a picture of a midi cut from one of my 1950s books, I have a book. It's called the Westmore Beauty Book. Here it is. This is by Bud and Wally and Perk and Frank Westmore. They were very famous in Hollywood in the 50s and the 40s. I have two of their beauty books. I have one from the 40s and one from the 50s. I will be making videos going through these, but if there's a midi cut in here, like a way you should be cutting your hair, I know I have a book that shows how you should be cutting your hair for a midi cut. I will try to put that on Ko-Fi. Otherwise, my hair is just in a very gentle U shape, and I just know I need to trim the back up a little bit because it's a teeny bit too long in the back. But if you're a little afraid to get a midi, having somebody cut your hair in just a U shape is a really easy way to start into this. So that is one of the most important things to do for vintage styling, and the other one is just to make sure that you are curling your curlers as well as you can, tucking your ends properly and not taking too big of chunks. Really, once you get it down, it's not super time consuming. So for styling, if your curls did not form like this, it means you might need to brush longer, but I prefer to pull it back with a comb like this, and I'm just brushing up and pushing it in. I might brush over these just to make them a little smoother and more in line with the rest of my hair. If you would like to add extra step, you can add pomade at this point to smooth everything over. I don't know if you can see that, but this helps with the shine and the general smoothness. I feel like this section is not quite behaving the way it normally does. And often I will add the pomade and then I will go back over it with a brush one more time just to marry the curls again and make everything nice and smooth. But remember that frizz is historically accurate, and most women back then had frizzy hair, so you don't have to have perfectly smooth hair. So here's our 360 now that I've added pomade. And there you go. That is it. That is how to style your hair vintage. It's very straightforward once you get used to the routine. You can do a lot of futzing with it if you want to. I generally do not. I don't like to be super fussy with my hair, and that's actually one of the reasons why I like doing my hair like this, because as long as I have my curling routine down, I can just brush it out in the morning. It takes a few minutes and then I'm done. This will usually last me about 3 days. I can brush it out the first and second day, and then on the third, maybe the fourth day, I will put it up in some sort of style. But that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful, and definitely tune in next week to see me style vintage hair for a full week. This will include different hairstyles and not just brushing it out. But yes, that's it. Hello, by the way, to all of my new subscribers. I am so glad that you are here. As always, I hope that wherever you are feeling safe and loved. And until I see you again, have a beautiful day, and thank you for watching. Bye!